My dad told me a long time ago, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you who you are. So 3 years ago, I met Mark Kinsley and I connected in a way that I haven't connected in a long time. I've been able to now take what I love with all my heart, the bedding business, and move it into a place finally where it deserves to be. This is the group, this is the place. They all have the same passion, the same thought, and the same love for what we do. And at the end of the day, it's changing the world. James was dying about 4 years ago. James was about to exit. James was not happy and his passion was gone. When you take James's passion away, James is gone. I live on passion. The fan brought me back to life. It was a place that I could come back, share my thoughts, my ideas, my vulnerabilities, what I was scared of, everything, sharpen iron with some of the most brilliant brains in the industry, and they are, every one of them. I would say real simply to all my fellow retailers, we're not competitors. We're all in the same business together, and we're going after changing this amazing industry for abundance for all of us. I'm bringing in 2 new members of our team because it's that important. I haven't been this connected in a long time. I haven't had this clarity in a long time. And I've brought in an energy of excitement to change the world. And I've got the action plans to do it. Everybody in here are brand new people that I got to meet, that I'm already currently doing business with, that we've created brotherhoods, and we are already making a difference in this retail industry. I can't say it enough. I hope to see you there. Do not want to miss this.
The CEO and founder of Esquire Advertising is here with some surprising data about mattress shoppers that you need to know about. The Sleep Summit show begins right now.
Fam.news.
Welcome to the Sleep Summit show, where we uncover bold ideas with innovators, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders making waves in the sleep industry. With your host, Mark Kinsley.
Welcome to the Sleep Summit show. I'm your host, Mark Kinsley. So excited to have my friend Eric Grindley. He's the CEO and founder of Esquire Advertising. This company has made the Inc. 500 list 3 times. Is that right, Eric?
Sounds about right. Yeah.
That's about right. 3 times. That is no easy feat. You've grown this company to be an amazing business with wonderful people, who many of whom I know, and you focus on really data-driven insights that drive marketing for furniture and mattress retailers in multiple industries. But you and I were talking, I'm like, we have to put this on the show because your team gathered up data from 1,300 Mattress Firm stores, sleep shops, and furniture stores across the United States. And you started looking at some of these signals that consumers were throwing off that really caught your attention. So before we go too far, I want people to understand a little bit about Esquire and about how you gathered the data and about what you do.
Yeah, sure. And thanks for having us. So we obviously what we do throughout the industry, we're framing up all of these individual locations throughout the country. So our technology can see down to a single meter level who's out in the world and shopping, right? After we capture them shopping, we match them back to their household address so we can better understand who they are, match them to their individual demographics, and then use this to, power ad campaigns, provide marketing and analytics to stores, show you where your competition is and everything. And so last year, one of our data scientists was, doing some work, just looking into what was going on at Mattress Firm stores around the country and how the consumers were interacting. And he noticed some surprising statistics with regards to cross shopping. And that there was really seemed to be this focus where people started only shopping at one location. And so if you remember, back when COVID happened, prior to COVID, the average customer was shopping in about 6 stores on average during their shopping experience. During COVID, that went way down. It went all the way back down to 1 point something, and I forget the exact figure, but it was under 2, which was a big shock. And then when things started to reopen, obviously we saw, it was still slow to recover, but we started to see at least a little bit trend to go towards the normal. And then in 2021, we thought for all intents and purposes, it was back to normal. We had saw that cross shopping had returned to the mid 4s and mid 5s, meaning they were shopping at 4 or 5 stores. And so we stopped tracking it. And it just so happened that he was looking into just seeing what was going on. And he noticed that it was starting to happen again, that cross shopping was slowing. And so he expanded out the data set. He started looking at mattress stores around the country. So he tracked this for all of 2022. And at first, he was just looking at mattress stores and just seeing what the mattress store customer was doing. And so across 2022, 57% of customers were only visiting one location. Now, they might visit that one location multiple times, but they were only visiting one singular location. And that was pretty significant just in and by itself, to see that over half of the customers over there weren't going out and shopping around. They weren't cross shopping and asking and looking to see if they could get a better deal somewhere. They were only shopping at this one mattress store location. And so when we were talking about doing this podcast with you, I asked him to just go through and update it and give us like the latest and greatest on the data. And so he looked at the 2023 numbers for those exact same locations throughout the country. And that's where it really got crazy, is that this number, 57% only shopping at one location, shot up to 88%. So, it's a question of like, why? Like, why are customers suddenly going back to only shopping at one location again? Why are we suddenly seeing this massive decrease in cross shopping? Because this is a big question and something that needs to be addressed by all retailers that are out there if you're in the sleep industry, because basically what this data is telling you is that if you're not a part of the conversation from that first interaction, or you're not doing something specifically to attract these people after they visit that mattress store the first time to bring them over to you, you're never going to be a part of the conversation. You're never going to have an opportunity to get that customer. And so, the question becomes why, which obviously me and you can obviously discuss that and come up with some ideas of why. And I have some ideas in my own head, but ultimately, like, this is a massive statistical change. And it almost brings us back to those, early COVID open numbers where we're talking about customers only shopping at one singular location and then only visiting on average, 2 times, so, they're visiting that store, they're going away, and then they're coming back to that exact same store, and then they're going away. Now, obviously, I don't know if these people are buying or not, or if they're buying online, or if they're exiting the market. But, for all intents and purposes, they're only shopping at one store.
So let's isolate the data briefly. So we're talking about the numbers from 2022 to 2023. And so from 2022 to 2023, it goes from 57% of people shopping at one store to 88% of people. So basically everybody is now only shopping at one store. Is that data only isolated to mattress stores and sleep shops, or did that data set include furniture stores that had mattress departments?
Yeah, so we didn't look at the whether or not the furniture store customer was only doing one visit, which we're going to obviously run that now after seeing this data. But what we looked at was if the mattress store customer did in fact go to a furniture store after the fact. And it was really interesting is that if you go into a mattress store, you're actually 4 times more likely to be seen at a furniture store in the future as compared to going to another mattress store, right? So they're going into a sleep shop, and then they're 4 times more likely to end up at a mattress or at a furniture store, but they're not going to any other sleep shops, right? So it's a weird thing, and it either means that these furniture stores are making more of a name for themselves in the mattress space, which is obviously concerning if you're a mattress store, or it could indicate that they're buying their mattress at that first store that they go to, and then they're outfitting the rest of their home at that furniture store. But overall, you're seeing a decrease in cross shopping across the board. And so I don't expect to see that big of a change in what's going on from a cross shopping perspective in the furniture stores, just because even when we did this during COVID, it was pretty much universal. What was going on in the mattress stores was also going on in the furniture stores. And so I expect that the data will show about the same.
And I think we could throw out a bunch of guesses as to why so many people are only visiting one location. Somebody that's maybe on the internet side of things might say, well, people are coming in armed with a lot of information. They've done all the research ahead of time online. They've checked prices, and they're coming in to make a purchase, and they don't need to go out and waste gas in their car and shop at different stores. Yeah. Inventory levels are back to normal. So part of what could have driven people to go from store to store previously could have been, hey, I'm actually trying to find product that's in stock that I can get. So those are 2 potential drivers. What else?
I actually think that second one is probably the biggest thing, right? So, when we saw the shift in COVID, and it went from 6 stores on average down to basically 1, maybe 2. The question was, would this ever return to normal, right? Would we get back to 6? Because if it didn't, what I have been telling people for the longest time is that like you need to be watching this number. If this doesn't recover, most of your independent retailers are in big trouble, because what we were seeing was that bigger brands were gobbling up market share. Because while the independent retailer was like sitting back and not spending as much on advertising and not really going after the market as hard, the bigger brands were still spending. And they were spending in order to make sure that they were staying in front of that customer and taking over that market share. And so they're slowly eating up the market share while you're sitting back waiting. And then what I think we saw, what we thought was a return to normalcy, where we were seeing cross shopping again, I think was literally just a factor of people not being able to find things in stock and just searching for items. And at the time, we didn't know, right? Like there was no way for us to know that that's what it was. There was, it could have been a return to normalcy. It could have been shopping around. I think now that we see that stock is basically normalized across the country, and now we're seeing a mass drop in cross shopping, tells us what we saw was literally people just searching for product. And so I think what we're seeing now in this data is that reduction in shopping around and not going to 6 stores anymore is probably the new normal. It's that we actually made a shift in the path to purchase, in the buying behavior. That COVID actually changed that so dramatically that people are not shopping around as much, and they only shopped around when they couldn't find the thing that they wanted. And so they're settling in, and they're going to those brands that they know and that they trust, and they don't have any reason to really kind of go out and look for a better deal.
Yeah, it's funny to think about normalcy, because we haven't really been able to use the word normal in a long time. Yeah. But the pattern shifts that happened with the path to purchase for the average consumer, I think, was probably dramatically and almost permanently altered by COVID, in a sense that, originally it was people are going to try and limit their exposure, and just they're going to get everything. If they're going to go to Lowe's and try to get some landscaping project stuff, they're going to get everything at Lowe's they could possibly get, maybe some extra stuff. Same thing I think happened in furniture and mattress. Boom, I'm going to go out. I don't want to be exposed to people and get COVID. So I'm just going to go in, I'm going to shop on my own. I'm going to go home and I'm going to have a bunch of stuff. Yeah. Well, they also saw like a shift in the buying behavior that happened online. So a lot more people got familiar with doing that research and not going out and pounding the pavement. And so the footfalls, definitely altered those paths. So it sounds like we're almost like going back to the behaviors that almost got crystallized during COVID.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what it is. I mean, I think there's, there's obviously economic conditions going on now that, are definitely going to play a part, right? And so, obviously you're going to see people that are willing to travel less. Like, we already see that in data where, drive time and where you're willing to drive to and how far you're willing to drive for certain things is reduced, for the average consumer. And as you have economic pressures on people, higher interest rates, like you're going to be pushing people out of the market. So you could also be seeing some of that in the data where people are coming in and they're finding out that hey, I just simply can't afford this right now. And so then they don't have a need to shop around because they just figure they're out, so there's a lot of things there, but, I think ultimately what this tells me and what I think retailers need to take away from this is you need to get in front of this. Now you need to be targeting people to bring them in first. You need to be a part of that conversation from the very beginning. You have this limited window. It's interesting when you look at the other stat that changed was in 2022, someone was in market for about 31 days. Now in 2023, we're seeing that the average is about 28 days. So that's shortened a little bit. So meaning we saw them again, and then we didn't see them ever again after that, right? So they have a shorter window of time now to actually capture that person. So you need to be doing things to move those people into store quicker. And you need to make sure that you're, obviously moving them through the funnel a lot faster. When you even a 3 or 4 day difference, people don't think that's that much, but that is actually a big difference, because if you were to see that same reduction next year, then you're down to, 24 to, 20 days in market, right? Every time that you continue to see these reductions, you're only shortening the amount of opportunities that you have to get in front of the customer and convince them to come shop with you. So you need to be doing things to pull them in now and not waiting on them to just come to you.
What do you think are some best practices? Let's say you're an independent retailer out there and you're trying to make sure that, number one, you're found in the search phase so you can be part of the consideration set. and you're advertising and spending your dollars in the right ways. And I know there's a bunch of different ways to do that because, I mean, obviously there are platforms like Esquire Advertising, hyper targeted, looking at in-market shoppers. You have people that are much more comfortable with, more traditional methods because that's what they know, or their market may be set up for that because of demographic or age. How do you think about getting out there right now? In my conversations, this is anecdotal. It seems like right now in a tough economy, people are more comfortable. These retailers are more comfortable spending money during the promotional holiday periods. So that seems to be the mindset right now. What else would you add to that pile?
So I think you have to think of things in the terms of conquesting rather than like there's passive and active advertising, right? So you can either be very passive and sit back and do some of those traditional forms where you're pushing things out and waiting for people to stumble upon you. But in reality, you need to go out there and conquesting. And what you need to figure out is how do I get in front of this traffic? And what I mean by that is how do I figure out buying signals before the person actually enters market? So I want to get in front of them before they go into that store. So whether or not that's, hitting people that just moved to town, if that's targeting, chiropractic offices and massage places where people are obviously in pain, having back pain, and they're not quite thinking about hey, maybe the mattress is the solution to my problem, right? So you can head off these things, figuring out in your market, maybe, and this just comes from doing an analysis of the data and understanding your customer better. But in some locales, we'll look at a Lowe's and then figure out that hey, over a 2-year period of looking at data that these customers typically would go to the Lowe's and then 3 months later they were shopping for a mattress, and 3 months after that they were shopping for furniture, right? There's things that indicate in our behavior what I'm likely to shop for. And so if you can get ahead of it, then you can be the first location that they come to. Obviously, you still need to be on Google search. You have to be spending money there and spending money there appropriately. You don't want to be overspending, but you also don't want to be underspending. Your job is not to compete with the biggest brands of the world. Your job is to be efficient with your dollar and make sure that you are competing on the most selective of keywords in your market that you need to be a part of. You need to be geo-targeting all of that down to a very defined area around your store, because people aren't driving as far, right? So most mattress stores are usually placed in some sort of a, shopping plaza of sorts, whether or not it's a grocery that's anchoring it, or, a Home Depot, a Target, or, restaurants, whatever it may be. That plaza is your friend. People are creatures of habit. We visit the same plazas over and over and over again. And so targeting the people that are going to that plaza on a regular basis, making sure that they know that you're there and that you're available, and getting in front of them. And there's benefits to shopping with you, and benefits to getting an opportunity to actually lay on a mattress rather than just buying it online. All of that has to come into account. But I would say, if I was spending money on my own store in the market right now, I would be, spending probably 20% of my money on Google search. Just to be in the top keywords that I need. I would be going after my in-market shoppers in order to be a part of that conversation and pull that person in for that second visit, pull them away from the store that they first visited. I'd be going after new movers as they move into the market. And I know, in the sleep industry, far too often I hear from people, they go well, people mostly buy mattresses from us before they move in. The data doesn't support that narrative. It never has. All the data out there shows that the majority of consumers are buying mattresses after they move into the home. And so I would be targeting those new movers. And then last but not least, I would have some sort of a streaming television ad campaign going on right now. I don't know if you saw this recently. It just came out in the last couple of days, but the NFL is basically moving towards streaming and away from traditional television. And so, we already had about a 70% adoption rate across the country of streaming services. That number is going to go much, much higher with just the influx of the NFL customers coming into the streaming platforms. And so this is one area of digital advertising right now where predominantly the consumer can't skip the commercial. And so there are ways that this can be done. And our company does this for retailers every day that can be still cost effective. Most of the sleep retailers that I know that are out there, they don't think that they can do this because they think that it's cost prohibitive. It's not. There are ways that it can be done and it can be cost effective. And so they need to not wait any longer on the sidelines. They need to be jumping in full force into that right away.
And I know that Esquire, you and I have talked about this, all the different points of pain that you had to pay a toll along the way for the longest time in order
Yeah.
to get into streaming TV. And I know you've compressed that value chain down
Yeah.
by partnering with Roku and actually having integration of that data.
Yeah.
That's such an important point, because you're right. If people that are spending money on cable, local TV, maybe that has its place, but you got to be in the streaming services because of the pure numbers, the math, like the adoption rate of people that are on streaming is there. And that's where they're going to be spending their time. That's where the eyeballs are. And you're going to get much richer data in return on that information. So when you put out an ad, I think the reporting is much more accurate.
Oh yeah, I mean, like the data is better. Obviously, like we can track it back, so that way, like we can actually show the ROI that they're getting from a TV ad, which is, like what you want, right? You want to know if that TV ad actually worked or not. The other thing about it is that, like, what we found over doing this over the last couple of years is that all the data shows that a person that is served a television ad actually spends more in store than the average consumer. Works out to about $400 on average. So, like it, and, obviously, like we can't say specifically what it is, but I think what it really is doing is it's driving the trust factor for these retailers up. By advertising on TV, you really have more trust in that brand. And so then the people come in and then they're more open to the idea, and then they spend a little bit more money. And on average across the nation, it's about $400 increase per ticket by seeing a television ad.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a good return. Hey, just to level set us. So talking to Eric Grindley, CEO, founder of Esquire Advertising. Eric's advertising technology company works heavily in the mattress and furniture industry. And just one of the things we maybe didn't mention that is a key point, when we were talking about framing up all these furniture and mattress stores and all the Mattress Firm locations, I just want to remind people who don't know, what he's talking about is put a little like digital frame, let's call it, around the doorway. And then when a device, somebody's phone, crosses through that threshold and their location services are enabled, which most of them are. If you're getting weather on your phone, it's enabled. That's whenever you're able to, what do you attach to that? What gets attached to the phone at that point that you're able to see who that
So
is?
we're actually not, like, we're not attaching anything to them. We're actually extracting them. So, like the way that we do all this is, it's like all hand drawn, right? So we've mapped up every furniture and mattress appliance store in the United States. We have, thousands and thousands and thousands of hours just put into framing. And we draw every frame within the 4 feet of the internal wall. We do that so that we can have efficiency and accuracy of the data. Once the device crosses into that building, we're extracting out that device using a whole host of different identifiers off that device. Once you have that, we match them back to their household address. Once we have their household address, we can take over their whole ecosystem. So like, you're not just limited to like looking at the device that was inside the store. You can see all their devices at home. So then you can serve them on their TV. You can serve them on their Apple TV, their Amazon Fire Stick, you can serve them on their iPad, their laptop. Then we can actually hop from there to their work devices. And so you can serve them at work. And so you can take over this person's whole ecosystem. The beauty of it is that essentially what happens is that you let the data drive your marketing, right? Like if the data is correct, the marketing becomes easy. Because then we know we're targeting the right person. We know that we're always getting real people seeing the ads. And then you can drive like higher returns and better efficiency for every dollar you spend because there's nothing going to waste. So it is the most like specific, hyper form of targeting that you can do, no doubt.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is one of many reasons that Eric and Esquire team made that Inc. 500 list multiple times, because this is such innovative technology that does a very specific job very well. And I want to go back and put a double red underline under this idea of new movers. Because like you said, I'm sure the question might have come up in people's minds as they heard that. What do you mean by new movers? Well, people are filling out credit applications and applying for mortgages and doing different things that send a signal that I'm going to buy a house or I'm moving to a new location. So Eric's team, I know you're able to look at that data, pull that data in, and start running campaigns around these new movers. And also, like you talked about, like you're attaching the devices to this, so it's based on the person you want to get in front of and their usage of the device, not an idea of a general demographic.
No, yeah. And like we actually look at movers in three different ways: pre-mover, escrow, and then new mover, right? So someone that is about to move that has shown some indication, basically raised their hand, said, hey, I'm moving soon. And then someone that's in escrow on a home. So anything that we have like escrow data on. So then like you can essentially hit someone through their whole like moving process, right? Like, hey, I'm about to move to Cincinnati. Okay, I've actually put a contract in on a home. Okay, now I'm in escrow on that home. Okay, now I actually move into that home. And so for the longest time in like the direct mail world, everybody would like target movers. But by the time you got the data back from like, the list provider, and then you actually got the print out and then it got into circulation and got to the house, by the time you get to them, it's like 90 days late. With us, we just took all of that and sped it up. So we started looking at more signals earlier so we could track the devices and then basically see the movement of them. And so from the moment they move into that new house, one, if we were able to capture them as a pre or escrow, we've already been targeting them, and we continue to target them when they actually get there. If we weren't able to capture them at pre or escrow, we start targeting them from the moment they actually move in. They don't even need to establish internet in their home or have the power on, because like we're going to be talking to their device, right? So from the moment that they move in, we're targeting them with ads saying, hey, like, it's time to come get a new mattress, come to this store, right? This is the place to shop. This is where locals shop, and you get the opportunity to tell them that message before anybody else. And, you're going to bring that buyer in, sell them. And then, 60 days later, then they're going to start getting the direct mail from everybody else in the market saying, hey, come shop with us. It's like, well, that's too late, and then it's a stack of, envelopes that, go super high. So
we live in real time. We live in real time. And when people are solving a problem or have a pain point, they're solving it right now. And you better be front and center. You better be top of mind. You better be on their devices. Let's go there for a minute. If you're a retailer out there and you're thinking about where to efficiently spend your money, this speaks to you. What are some of the results that you have had with other retailers? Because I know one of the ways you can look at ROI is if a retailer provides that sales data, you can do a match back to prove that it drove that sale. So give us some of those data points of successes that people have had or what they could expect.
Yeah, I mean, we always say on a national average, like the ROI will run about 10 to 1 to start with. Really what this comes down to is like how quickly you can provide us with data and how many optimizations we do. Clients have been working with us for a really long time, obviously have higher ROIs, because at that point, the ads and audiences are so optimized that it's like shooting fish in a barrel, right? Like, if you've been working with us for 5-6 years, it's not unheard of that they'll be in the, 300, 400 to 1 even return on ad spend, because, we are so good at selecting the audience of people to go after that we know that these people are likely to buy. And we have an ad that's been so optimized. Like what we've essentially done is taken an e-commerce mentality to brick and mortar, right? Like in e-commerce, you pixel every step of the funnel, where everybody's going at every single time, where they're falling off, what's working, what's not working. And then you can optimize and change in order to get to a really good ROI that you want. Well, you could never do that in brick and mortar. And that's what our matchback allows us to do. So, it varies depending on the industry. It varies depending on the type of store. It varies depending on their market. And obviously it varies depending on the size of the audience that we're going after. Everything that we do is so customizable that like we work with mom and pop retailers that have one single store operation in like the middle of nowhere in Alabama. And then obviously we have, the top 100 furniture retailers throughout the United States. And, we have big and we have small, we have medium, we have it all. And so the ROIs are going to change vastly depending on what you look like and what the makeup of your market is. But the beauty of also being able to customize it so much is that when we're working with a small retailer, the big difference is that we can make it affordable for them because we can just carve down the audience. Like we are also limited sometimes in audience, which as like a business is sort of a limiting factor for us. Where like, if I'm doing a new mover campaign for you, if you're in the middle of nowhere and there's only, 700 movers in your market, I can only sell you a campaign for those 700 movers, which means that you only have to spend about $500 a month versus if we're in Dallas, Texas, and there's 60,000 movers a month, right? Like I have the ability to work with more retailers there because there's more movers to go around in that sort of campaign world. So, but ROI speaking, most of them, it's like in 90 days, you should be making money and be adding to these campaigns. If you're not making money and doing what we expect you to do, then you're not going to want to continue to do it. So you're not going to continue to do it. Right. So for us, it's like, we have to perform because everything we do is in black and white at the end of the day on a matchback. If it doesn't create sales and ring the register, we have to show you that data and show you that we failed. So, we do not like to fail. Therefore, we always set this up, in a way that like, we're going to give you the best, most premium audience. So that way we can drive business. Like I always tell people, like, you don't care if I send you traffic. You don't care if I send you clicks. The only thing you care about is whether or not the register rings. That's the only thing we care about too, right? Like our methods are not the norm by any means whatsoever, right? Like our campaigns do not perform like normal digital campaigns, but they perform at the register because we take a different approach than anybody else.
If you like what you're hearing, come to Sleep Summit. Eric's going to take the main stage. We're going to take an even deeper dive with more unexpected insights, more data, and we're going to do a bit of a fireside chat. And you're going to have a chance to talk to Eric, meet his team, and also ask questions that you may be having. So if you're sitting here going, man, I really need to understand a piece or a part of this better. I have a specific question about how a campaign or a message or a promotion might work in my market. Get to Sleep Summit. So go to Sleep Summit Co. Right, sleepsummit.co right now. Get registered. You're going to be there with some of the brightest minds in the bedding business, including Eric. And you can give him a hard time about the answer to this question, which is on every Sleep Summit show now. And the question is, Eric, where is the strangest place you have ever slept?
So the strangest place that I have ever slept would be on the top of a fire lookout tower in Florida. When we were in college, we came down from college and decided that it would be a bright idea to climb one of those like fire stations, not realizing that you're not allowed to do that. So the story didn't end up with a good ending. We got in trouble for it for sure, but that's where we were. It was in a lookout tower for the fire station.
So what ended up happening when you got in trouble? Did somebody find out you were up there, or did you climb down and the local sheriff came and got you?
It was like we got surrounded by a lot of different cop cars and spotlights, and like it was like a big deal. Like we didn't know it was going to be a big deal. It was just we were just kids. So but they let us go. They were cool about it in the end. But they were not happy that we were up there. I mean, it's apparently like I guess it's like federal property. Who knew?
I've heard about somebody that built like an Airbnb style house at the top of one of those that they purchased from the government. So now maybe you can relive that memory, but in a totally legal type of way.
First of all, it's a great view. So I highly recommend it.
That's awesome. And the odds are good in this industry. You might not be the only person that's actually slept at the top of a fire tower. So hopefully if you've done that, come to Sleep Summit, talk to Eric. Eric, hey, it's always great chatting with you. Thank you for taking us on a deep dive into the data with 1,300 Mattress Firm stores and sleep shops and furniture stores. Looking at that jump up to 88% of people are only visiting one sleep shop. That means a lot to business owners, I think, right now, because that could fundamentally adjust strategy at this moment in time. And your ability to gather real-time data, apply it to businesses and make meaning of it, we'll continue to do shows like this, because I know that that path to purchase and understanding the consumer at this moment in time is incredibly important. Even looking 6 months back, if we were going to do research projects and talk to people that purchased or people that intended to purchase, you're going to get something that gives you some insights, but it's not real time. So thanks for mining this data and providing some real value.
Anytime. Like I'm excited about Sleep Summit. We'll definitely bring some additional data and stuff to talk about. And, this is really owed to our data scientists. Like we have a team of data scientists that are working on this stuff like all the time. And, this is something that this is going on right now. Like they're already feeling this, I mean, if you think about it, like we're giving you the data, we're reporting on it, but we're late. The retailers are already seeing these effects in store right now. So, it'd be interesting to hear from retailers that are actually seeing this effect right now and how it's changing their stores on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. If you want to give us some feedback, pop over to fam.news. That's FAM.news. And there's a text us box on the bottom right-hand corner. So if you're listening to this show and you do have something you want to share, questions, insights, text us on our podium number and we'll hit you back and we'll get your questions to Eric if for some reason you're not able to make Summit. Eric, thanks again, man. We'll circle up with you here soon. See you at Sleep Summit. Thank you in advance for coming and being willing to share your knowledge. And as always, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, they go to esquireadvertising.com.
Yeah, esqads.com.
esqads.com. Cool. Thanks, man. Great to see you.
Thank you.